Yeah, we are here to also share it with you.
We're going to share.
Well, I would like to, first of all, ask Misty just to give us a recap of this chapter. She has already confessed that she did not read it. So maybe Wanda, could you? No. Okay.
Linda.
Y'all are doing real great so far. So, this is not like the last course where we couldn't decide how to do our homework. But how many of you all how many of you read chapter 2 this week? Even if you don't remember what was in it. Okay. It is so good, and there is a story in there. I don't know if you all that read it, if you remember about giving his car away, and then how his wife found him in the garage. And I'm telling you, whenever I think about that, I just crack up because I can see myself or anybody doing that, really not seeing yourself from the outside looking in. But he tells, I would encourage you to go back, even if you didn't get it read, go back and read it because it's so good in the book. But he does also tell that story. But it does talk about kind of stewardship versus generosity. And I don't know if you were going to say this, but just how you can be generous. You can give and not be generous because really it's a heart issue. So in front of you are the discussion questions we'll use after the video. Thanks to Linda who asked for those, and Carolyn printed all those out for us. So that's great. Now that prompted me to, we have message notes for each of these, or well, Chip has them and we just printed them out. And it's a 4-page thing that kind of just walks you through the video and the chapter and everything. So would you all, we have enough for whoever wants these tonight. Do you guys want that raise your hand if you want that. We'll share it. Okay, and then I also printed them off for last week. Are you guys interested in having them from last week to have too? Okay. All right, raise your hand if you want them. Done for you.
I have a few more. I've got 4 more. If anybody doesn't want to share.
All right, and so let's see. Let me grab one. All right, so the next order of business here is the Bible verse. So be prepared, if any of you know it, to get ready to say it. However, you know how last week we talked about how genius me and Ben were? So we've got a new poster here, and it's spelled correctly. Actually, it is not spelled correctly. Because I don't feel so bad because we've given these cards out for now 3 different ones, and nobody has ever noticed the misspelling in this one. So y'all aren't genius either. But if you'll look at it and you find it, you can let us. Did you find it? Yeah, and I'm a homeschool teacher, so determining. All right, so has anybody been able to memorize this week? Has anybody worked on it this week? Working on it. It's a lot. It is a lot to memorize, but Oscar is going to just show us all up here. You want to say it? We'll give you helps. He's in phase 1.
He's already said
it. Don't look. Very good. Very good. That's my boy. All right, so just work on that. And I love the picture that this gives because it's not given, you will receive. it's given, you'll not just receive, but he's going to pile it on us. He's going to open the windows of heaven. So I would,
Summer, let me ask you one question. Is this gonna be for all 4 weeks?
all 4 weeks. Yeah, this is for the whole series. This is the, we just have to memorize one verse. Now, never mind that it's about the length of 4 or 5 verses.
Take
All
it,
right.
take it with you.
All right, Ben.
Can I have it?
Yes.
Take
Oh,
it with
yeah,
you.
it's yours. Yours to keep.
All right, so we did have some homework, which was to do something generous for someone. Did anybody do their homework? Anybody do their homework? Is that it?
And
Kinda.
are you, the intentional
The intentional?
generosity. Now, this is the
To be
rest of our
generous.
lesson, so I hope y'all did.
Huh? You did?
Did you? Did some stuff?
All
Okay.
right, so I'm gonna get y'all to tell your story, so. But first, I'll tell mine, and I really don't want to, just because summer's making me.
I know.
But I would like for everybody to tell it, because we don't want to brag, but it is learning. So mine is that I was driving down the road this week. There was this homeless guy, and he was riding one of those, I'm just gonna, a chair, but you sit on it, kind of like a walker type thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, he had fallen he was on the sidewalk laying down, and he had fallen over. And by the time I saw him, I was almost next to him, and so I had passed him, and I came up to a red light, and I was like, man, somebody should help that guy. And so I'm sitting there, and it's it was not real easy to get over, but I sat there for, it seemed like a while, but it was probably just a few seconds, and I was like, I'll help him. And so I'd been watching him in my mirror, and he kept struggling to get up, and he would like lift up on it, and then it would like scoot, and so he couldn't get his balance or whatever. So I pulled, it was in the middle lane, right there at the, it doesn't matter. Summer loves my stories. So I was in the middle lane, I had to pull over around traffic, and then I backed up in the road and got in the parking lot. And
And I'm on speakerphone with Luke the whole time.
yeah, I
so-
was on the phone with her, and I said, Luke, just stay here, because, I don't know what's going to happen. But, so I walked up there, and the guy's laying there. I said, do you need help? Like, obviously, he needs help.
No, I'm good. I did this on purpose.
Yeah, he said, yeah. So I was helping him up. But the funny thing is he was wanting me to hold his scooter. So then I was trying to help him up. So the scooter is in between us. So I'm trying to hold that so it won't scoot. And then I'm leaning over trying to get him up, and it's not working very good. And I thought, man, I got to move this thing. So I moved it out of the way, and I'm trying to help him. I mean, he's a bigger guy. And so I finally was able to get him up and get him on the scooter, and I made sure he was okay. And then in the process, his shoe had fallen off. So I put his shoe back on. I tried to put it on. It was kind of tied. And so I untied it. I said, this would work out better. So I untied it, and then, put it on. And there was no big deal, no problem or anything. It was very nice. But he had like 4 or 5 huge duffel bags. Like, man, how does he carry this thing riding on that scooter? And so I made sure he was okay, that, he didn't need anything else, and that was it.
Did you think of that as being an act of generosity?
Well, to be honest, no. I was just doing it, because I'm a generous guy.
And so
That's just who
humble.
I am. But, sitting there, I did, like, my first reaction was, because I feel ashamed to say this, but I'm so put off by these homeless people, like at Exit 7, and you go by and they have their shirt out, and I'm just put off. And I saw this guy, I was like, and I really did, well, at least in my mind, I think that I was like, man, somebody, that's too bad, but then the more I sat there, I was like, he really does need help. And so, in that case, I don't care to help people. But, so I did, and, but from last week, the statement is true, is that after I left him, I felt lighter and better about about helping him, of course. And he was very nice. His name was Anthony. But he was very appreciative, and so it was.
And that's what
that was
generosity
better.
looks like. You didn't give me any money, did you?
No.
He's been missing his wallet since that day.
If anybody sees my wallet,
No, but that is a good picture of generosity without, actually giving a tangible thing.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
always
I
all about
wanted him
money.
to share that story, is because it's a different take, but it truly was a generous thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You want to do yours?
Well, ours was very, we had two. First one
Oh.
was the day somebody was generous to us for lunch.
Today?
That feels good too, doesn't it?
And Kristen Larry.
Oh.
We got to eat with them today.
Oh, I can't wait till it's
You
our
said
turn.
you didn't raise your hand to say you were generous.
Well, Larry, I asked him to go.
Sorry, David. Okay, you have the first choice one, John. Thanks for pointing that out.
I was being generous to Larry. He didn't have to
Yeah.
pay for my
No, anybody that wants to go with us on Sunday.
We call this Sunday.
will.
Yeah, where's this sign-up sheet? There's some big families in this church now, Tracy.
No, this is better than the Outback.
Oh, yeah.
It was much better.
We can only take, what, about 12, 16?
Yeah, we'll have to at least get it like 10 to 12 down first, and we'll be all right.
Hey, Summer, don't you think Chip Ingram crying right now?
Yeah, he's like,
That's what I heard.
this is not at all.
Okay, the
All right.
other was, it has to do with restaurant and eating. We were at a restaurant a couple days ago, and their waitress was just very, very kind. They're usually busy and don't have time to, and this girl just went over and above. And so we left her a bigger tip. I mean, that's, to me, she just exemplified that kindness to us, so
Yeah.
that's what we did. We just-
Did you hear from her? I mean,
It-
y'all
they
left.
handed it to her, but it was folded up,
Yeah.
and she was busy, so she,
Yeah.
so if she did or not, I don't know. She put it in her pocket, but, we felt like that was, we
Yeah.
were led to do that.
Yeah.
It's good.
That is good.
All right. Who, Rob?
Rob. I think it was as of Wednesday, you were like, I'm not around anybody to be
I'm
generous.
not around anybody.
Not
The
living
dead person
anyway.
in the back.
Just breathing.
You want McDonald's?
I didn't drop anybody this week.
This week.
Right now, we're really losing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Rob says, I had my scooter. It's not- So, I haven't felt like I'm not around people, I don't, I get up, I go to work and come home, that's all I do. And so, Saturday morning, I'm up at 4:45 because I have to go to Roanoke.
To do what?
No.
It was an Uber.
Focus.
It was an Uber. So I'm like, okay, please God, I'm running out of time. I gotta do something. And so after I dropped my,
So you were thinking about it.
yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta do something. So I dropped my Uber passenger off. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Hardee's. And if there's a car, I'm gonna pay for whoever's behind me. And I don't go to Hardee's, I don't go through drive-throughs because I've been trying to eat good and all that. So I was breaking that rule so I could do something.
I hear
For
you.
Jesus.
So I pull up to Hardee's and they're in a soul there. I'm like, come on, they're killing me. So I order my food. I'm like, well, I'm here, might as well. So I pull up to pay, and I see this car coming around, and I'm like, I don't care what it is. I'm like, I'm paying for that car behind me, and then I'm like,
Church van.
so I bought this gentleman in his car behind me. I bought him breakfast that morning.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good.
It doesn't seem like anything, but I was just like, come on, God, I gotta do something. I ain't been around anybody.
What did you think after it was done? You done it, you know, what, did you feel anything or?
Well, I mean,
Relief.
Jackson.
When was that? When did you say that was?
and then I helped Misty's parents move a couch.
Where to?
Hey,
I will say, sorry.
Well, I think one of the points of this past week, because I was talking to Leanne about coming tonight, she said, was there homework? And I told her, I said, but you weren't here last week, so it doesn't count for you, you don't have to do it. But she said, I don't know if I've done anything generous. And I said, I bet you have, because I bet you all have done something generous this week, maybe even without thinking about it. So one of the points of this course is to get to thinking about it too, and to be more intentional about it, because it really is a heart thing. And the more you focus on doing that, that is an exercise in becoming more and more like Christ and being aware of his ownership of everything.
I was gonna say that, in the book, I think it'd be on your all's book, not the owner's manual, but.
Missy and Leanne.
But on page 35, and then, of course, through the whole, throughout all the 4 lessons, we've come to find out that everything is God's. He owns everything, and which is so basic, and I think if we think about it, we would agree with that, but at the same time, it's hard to come to grips with that, because we think that, you know, this is mine.
It's hard to get it from here to here.
Yeah.
And to practically work it out, because we know it all belongs to God until all those stimulus checks come in for a family of 6. And then we're talking about it, what should we do with it? And I said, I guess we should pray about it. And it got real quiet. I was like, let's not bring that up right now. Move on.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But it is true that you think, you know, this is mine. What can I do with it? You know, you get, I don't know, just like that. You think in your head, this is mine. You know, I want this, or.
Well, I thought that when I said, you know, I want to pay for his car behind me. I was like, man, I hope it's not okay. And I'm like, and then from reading that, it's like, it's all God's. And I'm like, you know what? If God wants me to spend $30 on somebody, fine. And that's why I'm just like, I saw a car, I just looked down, handed it out, and said, I'm paying.
It sounds like a real cheerful giver, doesn't it?
So be it.
Rob, you're supposed to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. We're going the wrong road.
That brings us to our next point, is that we move from duty to delight, and from rules we keep to an adventure that we get to share. It's a process.
You got 2 more weeks though.
And then the part about, like you talked about, the part about, you know, Chip was talking about his car.
Yeah.
And you know.
Pulling
he
the
goes,
radio out.
Whose car is it? It's yours, God. Okay, I love my little car. I really love my little car, and I always wanted a bigger car, but after I read out, you're right, it's your car. That's what you want me to have. I'm happy with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And this is my happy face.
It's true. It's true. All right, so we have a video we're going to watch. You can give, but not be generous. And so giving is an action, and generosity is a matter of the heart. All right, let me get this started.
And I think that these message notes will kind of correspond with the video, so you can kind of follow along and make extra notes if you want to.
Is this based on chapter?
Welcome to session 2 of the Genius of Generosity. I hope you had a great week. I hope that little verse on your mirror is beginning to take hold in your heart. Remember, it's give, and it'll be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken over, running back into your lap. For with whatever measure you give to others, it'll be given back to you. Well, we talked last time about why it is genius to be generous. And in this session, I want to talk about there's a secret. There's a secret principle that holds the power to becoming a generous person. See, the fact of the matter is, it's hard to be generous. There's something in my flesh, there's something about my upbringing, there's something about this world that makes it very, very hard, even when you want to be. You know, I told the story of the little Volkswagen. That's probably the first big thing I reluctantly gave away. And, you know, I got to tell you, you can't imagine the look on my wife's face when I was pulling the stereo out of it. It was like, okay, God commanded me. I have to give this car away. I don't want to. I mean, I chose to, but my heart was pretty hard, but I'm going to obey. And so as I walk out in the garage and get a tool, and I'm pulling that stereo out of there, it was kind of hard. It was an old-time one, kind of hard to get it out of there. And Teresa comes with her hands on her hips. Chip, what are you doing? I'm getting my stereo out of here. Well, Chip, why are you doing that? Well, you know, God said give her the car. He didn't say I had to give the stereo too. And I just had that look. Guys that are married, you know what I'm talking about? You know that look that goes, are you kidding? I mean, how? Ooh, I mean, how narrow? Chip, where are you coming from? And what it reminded me of, even when we seek to be generous, you know, we want to control things. We want to do it in a way that kind of works for us, and we want to just figure out how much can we give without giving too much. I want you to know I really didn't know very much about generosity. The good news was I obeyed. The bad news is I really wasn't on the same page with the Lord. And the reason is I didn't understand the principle that we're going to talk about. I didn't understand the secret principle that allows me to give generously, to give in such a way that my heart gets filled with joy. And so what I want you to do, if you'll open in your book to chapter 2, go to the very end on discussion and reflection, and then open your Bible, if you will, to Luke chapter 16. Last time we met together, the core passage was Luke chapter 12. Flip your Bible about 4 chapters, and I want to pick up a story, and embedded in this story is a secret. There's a principle in this story that will cause your heart and my heart to get released to be generous, because generous is the smart and genius way to live. Jesus tells a parable. There was a rich man who was a manager accused of wasting his possessions. So he called in and asked him and said, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you can't be my manager any longer." Translation, the guy is the steward or the manager. He's going to get fired. He's been squandering his position. The manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master's taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do. So when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" 800 gallons of oil, he replied. The manager said, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 400. Then he said to the second, "And how much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told them, "Take your bill and make it 800. Now, this is a very interesting, this is a twisting kind of teaching of Jesus. Listen very carefully. He is not, I repeat, he is not commending this unrighteous manager or steward for being a liar and a cheat and changing the records, okay? He's not saying, you know, way to cheat me and way to have a second set of books. What he's saying is this: how this man thought and his understanding of being a steward was very, very shrewd. And so Jesus goes on to say here, notice what it says. He says, "The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than the people of the light. I tell you," here's his command, "use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own?" When you analyze that teaching in Luke 16 of Jesus, there's one secret principle. The master owns it all. That man is a steward. In other words, he's a manager. He doesn't own it. See, it's hard to give the stereo that's mine. It was hard to give the car that was mine. It's hard to give money that's mine. It's hard to give time that's mine. It's hard to share my spiritual gifts if they're mine. But what Jesus is teaching is that this man was a picture of stewardship. You see, it's one of the bright ideas. Look right into your book. It says stewardship is the path, generosity is the adventure. When you come to grips with, beyond your head, down into your heart, God really owns it all. What do you have that you haven't been given? Your time, your energy, your opportunity, the oxygen that you breathe, the job that you have, the family that you have. Everything and everyone belongs to God, and you are His money manager. You are His steward. And so you got to get back to that picture of what it was like with me and John Saville. I mean, it was his money. He can spend it however he wants. He can tell me what to do with it. And so that changes your attitude. The secret principle in learning to be generous, and remember, it's genius. It's a smart way to live. The secret principle is you've got to come to grips with it's His. And once it's His, then He has the right to tell you to do with it whatever He wants to do with it. But here's the thing. He's kind. He's generous. And as someone said, some people are streams and some people are dams. You know, streams are where water flows through. Dams they hold water. Whenever God finds a person whose heart is generous, they know the secret principle. It's not mine. I'm just entrusted with it. You're a stream. And you know what happens with the stream? There's unlimited flowing of water available. But when you're a dam, when you're protective, when it's mine, when I can only give so much, when you ask questions like, are we supposed to give on the gross or the net? You know what that question reveals? How little can I give of my stuff and still kind of be okay with God? That's not genius. That's legalism. That's asking the wrong question. God wants you to experience His heart, because the second half is it's an adventure. Stewardship is the path, of course, but generosity is the adventure. I told the story in the first chapter, remember, of the morning where I was, maybe coffee is the only thing I know how to give away. But there was this homeless guy, and he was living out on the streets. He was living in his car. I mean, he was a hard drug user, and he looked scary, to tell you the truth. And every morning for 2 or 3 years, I would study in this little donut shop, and they sold bagels, and I would get there real early in the morning because that's when I do my best study. And this guy'd be seriously like this. And you could walk by him. Hi. No response. And that one day I bought him a cup of coffee and got him a bagel, and then I told the story where he said, do you see that star? Now here's the follow-up. That was probably 12 or 13 years ago. About 6 weeks ago, I drove over the hill where I used to live, and it was early in the morning, and so I stopped in that shop. And there was Mike sitting there, the man that I took one little step of generosity with 10 or 12 years ago. I walked in the door, Mike gets up, and this guy hugs me. Man, where you been, Chip? How are you doing? Hey, come on, sit down. And we had this conversation, and you know where it started? The bridge, the connection started with one small act of generosity. Over the next 10 years, Mike and I talked about a lot. I learned that Mike was a really smart guy. I learned that his daughter actually got a full ride to a school in Arizona. I learned that he had a sister that had lost a kidney, that she had a real high professional job. And I learned that Mike's life fell apart because of his drug use. And he was this gifted, skilled, amazing guy that looked like a homeless person that no one cared about. But what I understood was, what I have doesn't belong to me. I'm just a steward. And when God has the freedom to prompt you, that's one of the big bright ideas. The second bright idea is generous givers make God and His purpose their highest priority. You see, those 3 questions that we ask in the chapter, is my money going where God, who really owns it, wants it to go? Am I keeping careful track of the money that I do have? And then finally, am I using it to fulfill His purposes? And we talked here about the Great Commission, of building into the lives of people, of helping the poor. God wants His resources that belong to Him, that He's trusted to you. He wants them used in ways that bless, encourage, and fulfill His purposes. And the byproduct, is an amazing joy, an amazing connection with people. And the final bright idea in the book is enjoy God's generosity to you. You know, don't get so focused on God and His purposes and mission and changing the world that you don't remember that just like John said, hey, Chip, come on down to Dallas. Let's have a great lunch. Let's laugh. Let's talk. Let's enjoy. This is not about performance. It's about understanding He owns it all. Are you ready? Here's our application. Application number 1, I want you to watch that brief video by the founder of Domino's Pizza, Tom Monahan. It's an amazing story of someone who recognized it didn't belong to him and a lot of good that came out of it. Application number 2, I want you to review your verse, right? Out loud together. I mean, I'm going to get where we can say this together. Luke 6:38, the genius of generosity. And I want you to quote it to one another. If you don't have it this week, it's okay, but hey, you better get it down, all right? And application number 3, I want you to come up with a little plan as a group to meet a need. I want you to talk in your discussion time about a need that you would agree on as a group that we could help them. You decide whether it's time, whether it's money, but I just want you as a group to take the step and begin to meet a need and be generous with your time or your money or your gifts to help someone. Finally, let's start our discussion with this question. What has God deposited into your life and asked you to steward? Make a list. Are you ready? Just list one to another. What has God given you that He's entrusted for you to use for Him?
That was kind of piercing, I think. What did you guys hear?
Well, I like where he went back to the coffee shop and the guy recognized it. It just shows that generosity can make an impact on people.
Yeah, it's way more than your tip to that waitress. You'll probably never know this side of heaven what that did. It impacts for a long time to come, doesn't it, Oscar? What else?
He said it, one of the last things he said, it is not about performance. And as much as we don't want to be people of works, because we know it's not of works, but it's a gift of God, you know,
Yeah.
we still somehow have to have this balance and weights. And if I do enough good, then God will bless me. And, you know, and we try to battle that. But I love that. It is not about performance. This is not about performance.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a response, really. It's not a performance. It's a response to what we've been given and out of our love for Him.
And if we talk about giving generously around other people, sometimes you'll influence them.
Exactly.
We had a incident when Keisha said God worked tremendously. She mentioned at work that this girl that she knew wasn't going to the prom. She didn't have anything to wear and so forth. And the girl spoke up and said, what size does she wear? Same size this girl wore. She said, I ordered a party dress and they sent me two. And I have one that she can have. And I have shoes that will match. And tell her to come and I will do her makeup.
Oh, my goodness.
So see, God just fixed everything that one day. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And it's good to just be a part of that, to just be
Yes,
around
yes,
that,
Yes.
for sure.
Because the intent of the heart was to be generous to this young girl, to help her get those things she needed.
Right.
God don't need me. You know, He didn't need Melanie.
We're not doing Him any favors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happened was too, I'm gonna throw this out, guys, okay, because it needs to be thrown out. 2 Sundays ago, you know, the group that I bring and her uncle, Kevin came. Kevin's not a Christian, okay? Kevin said, I've been to many churches, and you know, he had on camouflage or whatever he had on, okay? And you know what's coming.
I didn't see you.
Our cousin, that's my dad.
But he said, you know, I don't look like everybody else. And he said, and so, he said, I go to other churches, and he said, they just ignore me. And he said the exact opposite happened in Providence. Now, and so, I think sometimes too, you know, that is being generous, that whoever got up and said hello to Kevin, okay, it meant the difference of him reconsidering coming back. And he lives in Piney Flats. He don't live in Bristol. He lives in Piney Flats. It takes him 50 minutes to get from his house to here. And so I'm just, you know, it doesn't have, like they were saying, it doesn't have to be this.
Yeah.
You know, it is just the intent, God, I just want to be, I want to be at peace with others.
Yeah.
I want to love others the same commandment, you know.
And it's a load off of us when we realize we're not performance. We're not responsible for his decisions that he makes, whether he comes back or gets saved or whatever. We're responsible in our obedience to God. And then he does that work. And we don't know what he'll do with our obedience. But,
I can't help but think about Ben's thing and the guy who stole cargo. You know, Chip Knight talked about, I mean, we think of money, give it, and that's a big way of it.
yeah,
But he mentioned time, and he mentioned attention.
Yeah.
That's what Ben did.
yeah,
I mean, and that guy down there may be Mike at a coffee shop.
that's true.
Ben may run him, or another Christian will run into him.
Yeah,
And Ben, I mean, Ben's time pretty badly. I mean, he's only got so many hours to work in a day.
yeah,
And so he gave it, it would have been easier, so I'm busy, whatever.
yeah.
And so that's, I mean, that is a sense of generosity.
Yeah, it really is. And to Velma's point too, I was on speakerphone because I just happened to be talking to Luke on the phone when all that happened. And so I listened as Luke witnessed his dad doing that. And that is, Ben probably didn't come back in and say, now this is why I did this and this is what it was. He just went to the next job. But Luke learned, and it's just important for us to do that as a witness to other people too.
And Ben said, I did it because I'm a nice guy, kidding. But the truth is, it is a nice guy that does that, you know? And he's that way, and so it wasn't trying to impress Luke or anybody.
Right.
But get the point, he wanted to have something to tell us tonight.
He made all that up too. I thought it was good. Just wait till next week, you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Think about all the witnesses that saw that too.
That's true.
People that could have stopped and then stopped.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tracy.
You know, when I came up on him, it was kind of like, I didn't see him from afar off, so I saw him as I was almost passing him. And, but I thought, man, why has nobody helped this guy? I mean, that's what went through my mind. He was struggling, trying to get up. I was like, why has nobody helped him? And of course, I'd already passed him whenever I had that kind of thought in my mind. But, and thankfully I was at that red light, but and I could stop and then I could pull over. But,
I think like you say, our life is a lesson. And not only the people passing by saw you do that, but your son saw you do that. And that's a lesson for his
And
life.
now we
You passed on the generosity.
And we heard about it, which encourages us.
It encourages us,
Right.
yeah.
And it builds up your reputation too, because people are gonna come to you for needs.
He's gonna go tell all those other homeless people, watch out for that. That black
The
truck
guy
will
in the
do
black
anything
truck.
for you.
Have you seen that man pass
what? I got a wallet out of it.
What I'm saying is, we should have called you when it happened.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
It also builds up your reputation as a Christian.
That's right.
How Christians act and who they are.
It's a better
How
picture
they
of
should
what
act.
Christians
How
should
they
be.
should act.
Yeah,
All right.
Got it. I mean, really, that's great right there, because there's so many churches that are dying and wondering why. And
yeah,
they look at the world and they take the opposite reaction and
Yeah.
they just keep on driving.
yeah,
Yeah.
And they think it's, the monetary thing.
Yeah.
It's that little investment that, people see, or they think, hey, I came to church and somebody noticed me, they talked to me.
Yeah.
It's the gas that makes the car go, using the same analogy,
Yeah.
It's that generosity. You can't just plop down a church and say, well, we're a church. Yeah, no, it's not. It's a building.
yeah,
But the people doing these things, is in giving of their time and their talents and going out to the community, it's really refreshing, honestly.
Yeah. And sometimes it's much easier to give money than it is your time.
Exactly.
It is, yeah, pull that, well, here's
Yeah.
$5 or whatever, $10.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, number one, which y'all don't have on your book,
They have it on their sheets now.
but you have it on your sheet. We stepped it up this week. What has God deposited into your life and asked you to steward? And make a list, write it out.
That's-
What has He deposited into your life?
Let me see your
Your
pen.
time, for one thing.
Okay. I'm going to I actually meant to have a whiteboard or something to make, so that we could really get practical with it. So I'm going to write it down as you all say it. Our time. Be specific.
Stimulus money.
Skip. Pass.
But Keisha, I know, like I could say, your car.
Yeah.
He's deposited.
We
his
talked
car
it, yeah.
Because you drive these kids all over the place.
Well, I was just thinking, we're steward over them.
Yeah.
What has He put in your life that you can use?
Our careers.
Your career?
Relationships.
Yeah. One thing that I think of well, it's true for all of us really, but I thought of for us was our home. We lived in a little condo for a while. I love to host parties and to have people in the house. And in a condo, we were too tight. We really couldn't do that, and I missed that. And God provided us with a bigger home as our family grew. And we take that seriously, that He gave us that to have people in, and I feel like we can use that as a gift back to Him too, from Him. So our homes are. So we expect to be invited to everybody's house.
Except for the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
I think first time we were doing this study, was it the first time we did it?
Yeah.
And why don't you tell a story? I was coming home, I work kind of hard days, and it's probably in the middle of summer, and I come home and like burning up, and all these kids are at the house. I'm like, just go home.
He didn't tell them that, but.
No.
And you realize they were your kids?
Yeah.
Half of them. But
It
anyway.
is true. We have lots of kids in our neighborhood, and they like to come over to our house
like
a
to
whole
come
lot, and it's not always convenient, but and again, we're not bragging on ourselves because we don't always have the right attitude about it, but that's just a simple way of using what God has, let us steward for Him. All right.
I was going to tell you, 37 years ago, my husband came home, when our kids were small, they were not real small, but anyway, he came home and he said, I ran into a friend that we went to high school with, and she sold her mother's house. We lived out in Reedy Creek in a little 3-bedroom house, no basement. And so he said, when the kids come home from school, we're going to take us up there and look at it. We went up there to his house, big yard. And I told him,
He's lost his mind.
well, he prayed, we prayed about it, he prayed and prayed and prayed. Well, everything just fell in place. And the girl we sold, that we bought it from, she let us finance it, and we paid her with 10% interest. Back then it was 10% interest. And we did that for a year, and then we went to the bank to pay her because she needed the money for her mother's nursing. But, in over the years, I don't even know how many people
Go ahead.
I said, people think we're running the dope with all
It is a constant parade.
Questionable.
Some of the dead ends.
We found out when we got to know the neighbors, our next door neighbor was a preacher or couple. Okay, so, after we got to get to know them, they had been praying for a Christian family to move there. And so, that's how God has worked, He's worked all this out,
Yeah.
that we could get it, and I still like, But, you know, and of course, that's just the way, our house is just.
Coming and going, yeah.
My sister and her came here when I was living at one time. We kept like, I mean, not bragging, I don't mean.
No,
bragging,
yeah.
I mean, you know, you get frustrated and the place said, I promise God. Give us his house, we'll use it for his glory.
Yeah.
What have we ever?
And
We've had to close reservations for the hospice.
My neighbor next door, he said, I want to make a reservation when I need that downstairs. I said, okay, but he, of course, he's kidding, 'cause we're the only entertainment they get. Three of us moved, back when the kids got their 6 months split, we either they're moving furniture upstairs or moving furniture.
oh, yeah.
So
I
they,
move couches every 6 months.
but
Should have called you.
another thing.
I can get around a corner like that.
Because the kids, they say, I'm even sure about that. Which, you know,
Yeah.
so big and dead, and you go to bed and there wouldn't be nobody there. Next morning, go downstairs, all these boys laying on the floor.
That sounds creepy, Myrtle.
He's upstairs covered up his head, totally dead. But, I mean, you know, it's just.
Danny, in other words, Danny used their generosity.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That is just a beautiful picture, though, of really seeing what you have as not your own. It belongs to him and allowing him to use it
And
how you want to.
My sister she's Miss Delaware, but she's never been much of a church goer, but she said she stayed. But anyway, she was when she come in, she would go to church. And so she said, I don't have this $10 bill, nothing offering. I said, well, if you put the whole thing in, he'll give you double that. And so she put it in, well, the next day, my daddy gave her $20. So, you know, she's seeing what
Yeah,
God can give you.
Right.
If you're,
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna get
We-
some,
it's almost 7, and we might have to skip.
what do you want me to do? Or you want me to skip that?
Yeah, let's,
Skip mine, we'll go to yours.
no, go ahead and do this one. Do this one.
Hey, we're still out
Do,
here.
do this one.
All right, I'm gonna get some people to read. Wanda. Linda.
These are all the people that,
I'm not coming early.
Let's see, Misty. You wanna read?
this is actually on this right here. So it's page 2 of that little handout thing.
Will somebody read from the back table?
Joel will, right, Joel?
Yeah, he's willing.
Yeah.
All right, Wanda, Psalm 24:1. It's on your sheet too, if you want. Linda, Haggai 2:8. Misty, Deuteronomy 8:18, and Joel, 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20. All right, Wanda, go ahead.
The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it.
Okay.
The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty.
Remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth.
You are not your own, you are bought with a price.
So we can see that everything is God's. He owns everything, and we're just the managers. Okay?
All right, we're going to skip down to question number 4. We were going to do question number 2. We're going to skip over that one for time, but I would encourage you to go back to number 3 and 5 on your own. These are kind of more reflective type questions for you to just kind of consider for yourself. But let's just throw out a couple of things, and then we're going to go over the challenge, and then we'll be done. I'm sorry, we're running a little bit late. Number 4, Chip said, faithful stewards demonstrate generosity by giving their first and best to God. Practically speaking, what does it look like for you and your family to give your first and best to God? What does that look like practically? I would use Keisha as an example because that girl can bring kids to church. And that is definitely sometimes, that's the first part of her day. I know she brings Lakeland, and for Excite, she's even coordinating other people's cars, isn't she, Tracy, to get those kids here. So I would say that's a practical way to use what God has given you for His glory.
That's been going on for years.
Oh, yeah, that's not just, I know, yeah, that's,
Just not lately.
yeah.
For a long time.
But what are some other practical ways that you and your family, or just you, can do to give your best to God?
First part of your day, very, when you get up.
Yes.
I think like the sacrifice of your time, like there's, you could be at the ball field, or you could be at the movies, or you could be doing all sorts of other things, serving God with your time.
Yeah.
Outside of when we have to be working and earning a living, or have to be at school. And
Yeah.
those things.
And that's valuable. That time can be very valuable.
Because that's
so.
your family time or your downtime.
Yeah.
And just sacrificing that.
Okay.
I think whatever you do with your life, you do it in a way that pleases God.
Mm-hmm.
That's very practical, I
Yeah.
think. To give of yourself in a way
And to be conscious
that
of
will be
it.
pleasing to God.
Yeah.
Hey, some of there, especially women, some guys too, some women in this church who are really good cooks and bakers. I mean, they're all talking. And it's funny how they delight in providing food for other people.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say, hey, we want to do such and such, he's like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a really good way to do that. It's something they're good at and enjoy doing.
That's true, your
And it
skills.
costs them money to do it, and time to do it. But a lot of our folks are that way. It's kind of, it's a wonderful testimony.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a hands-on way to do that.
Yeah.
And guys, we can do, for example, have some little ladies or some single moms work on their car.
Yeah.
Fix brakes, change oil, stuff like that. Or just some of the things that can be done with it. You may not have much money,
Yeah.
and so you can do those things with hands-on. And this church is awfully good at that.
Yeah. That was one thing too, and I mentioned to you last week, but even before we started last week's lesson, there were like little pockets of generous things happening all night. You know what I'm talking about, Linda? Because I was handing out books and Linda was taking your money. And I don't know, it was like every other person we went to, they said, here's this, I'm going to pay for so-and-so's, or I'm paying more than I need for my book, use the rest to pay for somebody else's. And it wasn't just one person that did it for one other person. It was over and over and over again, and probably didn't think a thing about that. But that happened just that first night, and I see that happen a whole lot. And then by the end of the night, even Carolyn coming to and offered to for the rest of our sessions to print off these discussion questions. So that takes a little bit off of us, and that's an act of generosity, something that she can do from home. So those little things like that, using your printer and using even your finances too to be generous. Okay, we asked Dad to come up here for this last part. The challenge that Chip gave us was to come up with a way that we can collectively be generous. So last week's was to individually be generous to somebody, and this time we're going to kind of discuss a need that we know of that we can do. Last time we did this here, there was a lady in the church that needed a washer and dryer, and by that night, it was supposed to be a week long. We were going to, how much God wanted you to give, that's what we would do. And so I think Glenn talked to the people that got the washer and dryer. By that, we did it for Sunday school. By Sunday night, we had the money to pay for a brand new washer and dryer. Then when we did it in H2O in our Sunday school class, there was a family in the church, and the husband had been out of work for weeks because he was sick with pneumonia. Do you remember? And so he couldn't get all of his income. I don't know if he got some of it. We didn't know. They weren't in our Sunday school class. It was just a family in the church. And so we took up money. Ben and I, we were the ones to be able to take that gift to them. And it was so rewarding. And it ended up being the exact amount that they lacked for, I don't know if it was a bill or to make up to pay, was that what it was? But we didn't know that. We didn't know what they needed. We just took up this amount of money. So God is going to use this, and I am very excited to see what it is. So,
And you all may have some suggestions too. Let me give you, just jotted some down after they talk with me. One is, there's a family in the church that loves Pawleys Island. They got to go last year, as a matter of fact.
and it's not just a couple.
They enjoyed it.
Oh, they did.
They need a 4-bedroom.
Yeah. This year, their daughter and son-in-law and family would like to go with them. that what you said to say?
All right, so can we vote on it?
And all God's people said? Oh, ooh, ooh. Okay, here's the second hear what he said.
Yeah, amen.
Second possibility is Keisha needs a school bus.
No.
A van.
CDL, no.
Okay, okay, not a problem. Hey, okay, she needs a 15-passenger job. Okay, so we could, hey, anybody have, an old junkyard that's got a bus we could get? It doesn't be, now, she has no pride.
Has to run.
Huh, it does have to run, only, it does have to run and have brakes.
We gotta have air conditioning.
All the window down.
All right, never mind.
Back to Polly's
Don't get
Island.
picked, meanwhile, back at Polly's Island. Huh? Yeah. A Pacifica. We have a lovely Pacifica that you all.
Sorry.
Hey, Pam, how you doing, honey? Love that Pacifica. Okay, now we do have somebody in the church, and they would be embarrassed. They're not here. Is that right? Yeah. I'm just kidding. They're not here tonight, okay? And they would be probably embarrassed to know that we're talking this. But I don't know anything about their finances, but I do know they're not rich, okay? And I do know they've had a lot of expenses. And I could tell you more if we need to, I don't know, but whatever, that'd be just whatever we give to them. I know that it would be put to use and it would be, right use. It wouldn't be on them, probably wouldn't even be on themselves. But that's a possibility. You know who I'm talking about? Right here, Glenn Goad. They got a new house, a new car. They've got to be broke. But they do have good insurance. Yes.
Money's not going to solve this problem.
Therapy? Did you put therapy?
Therapy. But that's the one I'm talking about. And the other one is, and this is just a thought, it seems like most of us are having our needs met right now. That's good. Where's Pam go? Where did she go this time? Oh, there she is. She's hiding behind the camera. And so maybe just take up what everybody wants to give, put it in a pot, and it's okay, we got whatever money that is, and let's ask God, would you give us wisdom? Would you show us a need that this meets? And that's a possibility, unless somebody else has an idea. What do you think? What do y'all think about that? But either of those, and you may have.
That's what I was going to say. Do you all know of a
Yeah.
need?
I just recently found out that Kelly's Grill is all burned out.
Is that a restaurant or what is that? Kelly's Grill? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Well, we know y'all are hurting. We know that. I feel led to say, let's say amen. Same thing, same
Sharon.
response. Sharon?
Okay, so mine's not funny. So Lily was supposed to come and tell you all this, but, and I'll let her fill the details, but her, she's a part of a group at Cornerstone who is doing what's called an impact project. And they have a goal of packing 200 suitcases for foster children it's like a grab bag when they have to go in the middle of the night. And it will have various things. And they need to raise $10,000 for that. So I don't know, she was going to come and like present that to us anyways, if it's something that we want to get behind.
Okay.
It's called like the James 127 project, is what they call it.
All right.
I think maybe what we should do is to, and you all mentioned other ones that you know of, but to maybe not decide tonight.
That's good.
Decide for next, kind of think about it, and if something comes up, pray about it, and God might say, none of those things, this is what I want you to do between now and next Sunday, do you think? And so by next, because this is not the end of this is just our second session,
Yeah.
so maybe by next Sunday, we can know what we're going to do and go from there.
Yeah, I think one thing that'll happen, and it could be the Lily thing or whatever, would be when it happens, you'll go, hey, that's it. We'll feel comfortable with it. You know, it'll be
Yeah,
something that everybody say that's it, or and it could be one of these even.
not the couple to Polly's Island.
Oh,
I'm going to mark
never
that
mind
one out. He has that written down on here.
It's a joke.
Do any of you all know right off of a need that maybe God has brought up to that you know of, that we can just kind of put down and pray over?
I told
Okay.
you. See, the Lord's good at it.
He is good. I know that there's something he wants to do with this
Yeah,
though, so
yeah.
you guys be in prayer that God would
Just
make
so-
it clear to us.
And she even mentioned it, the washer and dryer thing, it was weird because right off the bat, there was a need that almost immediately we said, that's
Yeah.
it, let's do it. And so, but doesn't always happen. And so we
Right.
really want to follow God in so we can see him work in that. So.
And it is being a steward.
Yeah.
Before this series, I saw steward as being kind of like a cranky old man. You know, that's what I thought of for steward, when really it's just being a manager.
Take care of
Just
it.
using, I think Ben was the one who's like, steward just means manager. And I was like, oh, that changes it completely. So it's not a cranky journey we're on. It's really an adventure. So I think this will be something fun to do collectively. And I would encourage you guys to just go ahead and keep doing generous things throughout the week, even if it's last minute.
And
Like, Ron.
they'll have time to share it again too.
Yes, and we'll share again next week of what's going on. All right.
Yeah, if, I would also add, during this, during the week, if you feel so led to be generous, to do that, because that's what we're
in training
that's-
here.
Yeah, training, so, okay, I think we're gonna pray. Glenn, would you care to pray to end us, and then, I
Be
think that'll be it.
dismissed.
And then read chapter 3, is that right?
Oh, yeah, read chapter 3. And that video that he mentioned, since they've discontinued this, that it's not on that website anymore, that I don't think, because the other one was not. And I did not take the time, I'm sorry, to find the YouTube one. So I don't know if it's on YouTube or not.
He's the guy that used to own Domino's.
And
He owned Detroit Tigers.
It's in this, his story is in this book, but I don't know that it's in your all's little books. So we can always kind of tell you all that story or find it for next week.
It is an amazing story, though.
It is.
so.
It's on YouTube.
Is it? Okay. So just Google his name, probably you come up with
That's all
it.
you gotta do.
Okay. All right.
Father, thank you for the insight that you've given us. Thank you for your word. Father, I thank you that we have such a group with a generous spirit and a desire to honor you in what we do. Pray, Father, that you open our eyes to see what you want us to see and to be obedient to what you've led us into. We give you praise and glory in Christ's name. Amen.
Hey guys, this is Pastor Stan, and just want to take a second to say thanks for watching. I trust that our time together is beneficial to you, that God's using His Word to make a difference, that He's challenging you, that He's encouraging you, that He's convicting you, that He's changing you, whatever He needs to do His work in you. That's a great encouragement to us. If you could let us know that, that would be encouraging also. Oh, and by the way, I hope you're in church somewhere. If you've not fixed yourself in a local church, let me encourage you to do that. You need that fellowship. You need that accountability. You need those ministry opportunities. So get yourself in church if you're not already there. If you live in the area, we'd love to have you visit with us. That'd be a great joy to us as well. We're at 19175 Woodland Hills Road in Abingdon, Virginia. Just come in. Our services are Sunday morning at 10:30, Sunday night at 6 o'clock, and Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And any one of those times, you'd be counted a very special visitor. So I hope you can do that. Let me encourage you also to pray for us. Would you do that? Would you ask God to use us, make a difference in us, keep us clean, keep us on the road to righteousness, and to be fruitful in His kingdom. Again, just want to tell you that we're glad you're here. Feel like you're part of the family. Some of you watch so often, it's like you're here with us already. So we love you, pray for us, and hope to see you next time.